Appreciate everybody for joining us here today. We've got Dani Liptak here to speak with us about the ADA. And this act, American Disability Act, is something that she's pursuing a certificate in, and that'll allow her to negotiate with key individual stakeholders about enforcing that act and so on. And so we're really excited to have her here and volunteering to help us out with this. Dani, do you want to give a quick intro to yourself?
Yeah, I am in Wilmington, North Carolina. I'm 35. I work at a comedy club and a small women's owned business. I started my ADA certificate, I think like a year and a half ago. Like sometimes I was busy. Some days I'll do like 3 or 4 certificates. It's like you watch a lot of videos, you answer a lot of questions. There's a lot of just like absorbing information. The test that I'll take is open book. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but it has been really interesting so far. I've learned a lot. I've used it somewhat out in my everyday life. I hope that I'll be able to do something in the future with it. But yeah, so I'm here to try to answer questions. Again, I don't have their certificate, and Google is something that I use, and like the books and stuff like that. So yeah, let's do this.
So the certificate is through Google?
No. I just
Okay.
I'll Google like questions. Like I got a list of
Okay.
questions earlier. Like if you go to a restaurant and it's not ADA compliant, what do you do? Well, I'll just go to Google and be like, how to file ADA complaint. It'll take you
Okay.
to the Justice Department, et cetera, and then you go from there.
So the certificate that you're getting, like
Yes.
who is that through?
So what you would do, 1 second. It's like the Rocky Mountain ADA has different classes, and for ADA courses, you do an ADA coordinator training, and there are about 40 hours. You have ADA prerequisites, that's a fun word. You do an online exam, and then it has to be completed within 3 years. So if you have other jobs, it's not like as demanding as other degrees and stuff like that. It's a one-time fee. And then after that, to extend your certificate, it's like $25, I think. But the actual, like, I guess, registering for it isn't through the Department of Justice, but it's through like the ADA training programs around the country and stuff. And you can go to a conference and get your ADA basic courses like knocked out instead of having to, and you get to talk and meet other people and stuff like that. So I did that and I got a lot knocked out. And now I just have like 10 credits left in the exam.
Awesome.
Yeah, I can send you the ADA coordinator requirements and stuff,
Yeah,
but it's
I would love
definitely
that.
interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Well, yes, we had some questions come in through the groups and can kind of give you some of those situational questions like you mentioned with the restaurant, and anybody else that has any that is more specific to them, then feel free to jump in. One of the ones we had was from a college student, and they were saying if they're on the way to one of their classes, they may need to take an elevator, and if that's not working, they could get penalized for not showing up to the class. Is there
Yeah.
anything that they can do in that type of scenario?
Yeah, I remember when I was in school, I went to a private women's liberal arts college. I had a golf cart that I would use to get to class if it snowed or rained or whatever. I would leave extra textbooks. It's interesting about the elevator because there is like a required amount of time that it can be down. But I looked up that question. I was also really surprised that they would actually get penalized for not being in attendance, especially when that's completely out of their control. That teacher kind of sounds like an ass, but that's just me. I would obviously have a doctor's note. I would talk to the ADA coordinator at their school. because it's always good to let your like someone at the college know, because they should have someone there that accommodates you, like whether you need extended time on tests, whether you need like extra textbooks or you need them online. So the elevator thing is, let's see, I'm in college, the elevators aren't working, penalized, what can I do? Until the elevator is fixed, a reasonable accommodation for that would be a Zoom, like a Zoom call, like someone would either record for them or the teacher, you know, they have computers if it's a college. You can Zoom. I mean, there was COVID, so they have the possibility to do that, and that should count as them being in attendance. And then in section 407 of the ADA outlines that there are accessibility requirements for elevators at schools and colleges. And let's see, there's an allowance for isolated or temporary interruptions. I didn't exactly find how long that is, but they shouldn't be penalized for that. There should be a reasonable accommodation such as a Zoom attendance or like that. Yeah, because that's totally out of their control and is the school's responsibility.
That makes sense. And in there, you mentioned that typically the school, especially university, would have somebody designated for
Yeah.
ADA compliance. Would that extend to private schools as well? Do you know?
Yes, it does.
What about particularly small ones? Like if somebody was at like
Yeah, I
a,
mean, the school I went to was 800 people, and they have to follow that the same. Actually, it's interesting because sometimes the ADA is a national law, but sometimes state, local, and even like private entities have better like rules and regulations than the ADA. So sometimes that's why state and local is different. Than like the national. Everyone has to follow the national, but if the state and local ones are better for people with disabilities, like go with that one, obviously.
do you happen to know any examples offhand of how some states are more accommodative than the national?
Yeah, I think that was one of the questions, and I had, okay, let's see. Just 1 second. Okay, so I guess the one that I could think of like is in Wilmington, where I am. It's small, it's historical. So a lot of these buildings, there is no grandfathered in thing, but reasonable accommodation wise, they will go out of their pocket to pay for like an outdoor elevator into a historical building. Whereas like under the ADA, that is not considered a reasonable accommodation. So it's like that small entity compared to the like Department of Justice's reasonable accommodation and versus like the historical buildings. Like there's some club that's been around since like 1889 or something, and one of the members there couldn't access it because of like the steps and stuff, and through their funding and whatnot they were approved to like modify the historical building with an outdoor elevator, whereas if they tried to go through it with the ADA it wouldn't have been accepted like as a something that you could be sued for because that's not a reasonable accommodation. But I'll try to find like more examples and post them. As June said, there's going to be like a blog or something, and I can add things later on.
That would be helpful. Does anybody else here, given we're all in different locations, happen to know of any examples for your city?
I feel like big cities like Seattle or DC or Maryland would have like better accommodations than like super small ones. But I've been impressed with some like cities that are considered historical and small, like Savannah, with their accessibility stuff, like accessible like trolleys or I've seen more accessible taxis and stuff. So I haven't really seen any accessible Ubers or lifts yet.
I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and it's, sort of an old city. And I worked for the state for like 10 years. And when I was there, there were no, the capital is Harrisburg, and that's like where all the state buildings are, they're all right in the city. And there were no curb cuts until 2017.
Yeah.
So it was really frustrating for me because I was like, I really want a job in the health and welfare building, but I couldn't get there. Like I just couldn't figure out how to do it. So it's frustrating, like when I guess state governments can sort of go around federal guidelines. I don't know.
It's until like someone says something or complains. That's like the most annoying thing. I think the medical question, there was a medical question about an exam table and stuff like that. If you don't, Zach, do you mind if I go to that question?
That sounds good.
Okay, so I saw there was a question that's like, I wanted to get an exam. Uh,
Yeah, I think it was if they had trouble getting up on
yeah, on the table. But like, a doctor's appointment, I couldn't get on the exam table, so I didn't get the medical care I needed. For me, when I call and go, I ask if they have a table that goes up and down, if they have a Hoyer lift, blah blah blah. A lot of these people have literally no idea what I'm talking about, and I'm like, what the heck? And so, and obviously ignorance of the law and rules is not an excuse, but I try not to be like too harsh or anything like that. So there is something in the Title III of the ADA, which prohibits discrimination against people with disabilities that receive federal and financial assistance, including health centers, etc. So the number of accessible exam tables needs to that's provided by the medical care provider depends on the size of the practice sometimes. But they should have a table because that's a reasonable accommodation. So I've had, it's not like a fight with them or anything. Like I've requested push button doors at the doctor's office that I go to, and I've asked for one exam table to be at the place that I did, and it wasn't met with like resistance. And it did happen within like 3 months is like kind of the time frame that they gave me, and it did happen. But there is a way to do that is making sure that they have in your file, because they didn't even have in my file that I was a wheelchair user. And that's something that I read, and I'll post it again on that blog thing where I have all this information on a document. But they are supposed to have something written in your file saying that you need medical assistance, like, and they can't be like, bring someone with you. That's like not, that's not it's not saying that it's not allowed. You can, you're totally allowed to bring like someone who you feel comfortable with. They also can't like risk their employees with like lifting you up, etc. That's why like the Hoyer lift and the gait belt and stuff like that, but that's also a reasonable accommodation for you all, hence the table that goes up and down. And again, I have like a link to all these like pictures of how wide the door is supposed to be for us wheelchair users and like all this stuff, because there have been places where I was absolutely shocked at the medical facility. I was just like, this is a doctor's office. Like I'm like, my wheels are hitting the frame of a door because it's too narrow. And I'm like, I was just totally surprised. So that's something I've definitely tried to do a lot of research about, but there is on ada.gov resources for medical care and mobility that shows all the stuff that doctors' offices can have. So it's a lot though. yeah, any other one have like experience in doctor's offices or like had to ask for accommodations or anything when you go to the doctors or missed like medical appointments or anything like that?
I kind of just have a general question. Like, I know that automatic door openers are not legally required by the ADA.
Mhm.
What is required is that the doors have to be like less than 5 pounds or something.
Yeah.
Why aren't automatic door openers like required? And do you know if there's any like legislature that's like trying to change that?
Off the top of my head, no. I think it has to do with like the building setup, how much it would take for the door to like installation or something like that. But there is other, what was it? There was they must comply with what you said. Like, you know, that what is it called? That like makes the door slow down. I don't know, it's like a hinge or something. It's I don't know. But that has to be like a certain weight when you pull it. So there are reasonable accommodations if they're not willing to put an automatic door thing in. Mine is when they have it and it doesn't work. And like, yeah, an able-bodied person will like elbow it and it doesn't work. They don't care. They can just go pull it. But there are definitely guidelines for automatic doors. But I'm gonna look that up. I'll write that down and add it to the thing.
Yeah, I've had like my one doctor every time I've gone,
It
they're like,
doesn't work.
oh, it's out of order, it's out of
No.
order. And I'm like, okay. It's like,
Yeah. One time I was like, can you call your building manager like right now, like while I'm here? And she
oh,
did. And I like literally after I got out of my appointment, it was fixed. Like it's so weird. It's so annoying that you have to ask so
yeah,
much. And like it is a lot, especially when filing a complaint, because I looked at it. It doesn't cost you money technically unless you want to move forward with like suing that place, obviously, but to file a complaint, it's not it doesn't cost you anything. But I think it's like a 3 month like wait sometimes to hear back. Oh yeah, so automatic doors.
Mhm.
But yeah, also like weather sometimes. The elements can affect like inside and outdoor. Like if you have extreme like heat or cold, some places won't do the automatic doors, but then they have the opening doors. So I don't know.
Well, just quickly sharing a story from someone about at a medical facility. You know, she had an appointment there and couldn't get up on the table. And also, I think in the waiting room,
Yeah.
they had, you know, just sort of regular chairs, and it was really difficult for her to stand up from them.
Yeah.
So, but I think maybe the receptionist or nurse, someone said, you know, well, contact, I think it was the patient advocate or navigator. There's, I've got to remember the title. There's a
Yeah.
position that her healthcare center, you know, that person's job was to kind of field and address these
Yeah.
complaints or suggestions from patients,
Yeah.
and they were happy to do it. They took care of it. Next time she went, they had high chairs in the waiting room, and they had a table that lifted and stuff.
That's nice.
So, and I think most of us, like even I can't remember the name of the title of the person you're supposed to
Yeah.
contact,
It's just so
you
many
know.
letters and names and
Yeah. But if, you know, if you're not sure, I guess you could ask the doctor or the, you know, the nurse, someone in the office saying who's the person who fields these types of requests, you
yeah.
know.
Like, who do I contact?
Yeah. And I think a lot of places, especially bigger ones, you know, they have them. It's just they don't publicize it, and
Yeah.
and nobody knows to ask. The other thing I've discerned, I think, from talking to people and reading about ADA enforcement is that it is the law itself is set up without a specific kind of enforcement mechanism. It's like, so if places cannot be in compliance, but that's fine unless somebody complains, and then they need to. So it's kind of, the whole premise is the way it's enforced is through people suing businesses, or and it sounds like an extreme thing, but it's just kind of baked into the way
Yeah, and then you
Yeah.
have people sometimes that like go out of their way to specifically look and like sue those
yeah,
like hotels and restaurants and stuff, like,
yeah,
oh, your light switch or your hand dispenser is half an inch too low or
right,
something like
yeah,
that. But also our mobility devices have become so like elevation, headlights, seat belts, like grabbers, the robotic arms and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, a lot of people, I mean, whether you have a temporary or permanent or like invisible or visible disability, and not everyone can afford or get those kind of devices. So having like it's annoying because it's like a standard, I guess, is that what it's called?
yeah,
Um, so it's like, yes, if you're 4'11" and you can't reach the whatever, then, or if you're 6'6" and like no wheelchair fits you or no car can fit you in your van, it's just it sucks because you can't adjust everything.
Mhm.
Like not all
Right.
toilets can elevate, not all sinks can like, yeah. So
hmm
not everything is gonna be perfect for everyone. Like um you know, that I was in a waiting room and this woman was complaining about the bathroom grab bar. She's like, it never makes sense to me why those bars are behind the toilet. And I wasn't gonna be like, lady, I pee standing up. I hold on to those things. Like that's what they're there for. Like it's like the oh shit handle. Like, oh my God. I wasn't gonna like embarrass her in front of everyone being like, I use those. They're there for a reason. So sometimes like people are just pissed and I get it. But you're gonna get more, I think, out of someone if you are there. You can explain things, and I hate the non-threatening way of I'm gonna bring the ADA down on you or something like that. But yeah, no, like when you see someone parking in a space, I prefer to just shame them because it's just quick and efficient. But like you can call someone, I think you call the non-emergency number for 911 and you let them know. Like sometimes I'll be like, oh my God, I'm trapped in my van. This person, they parked in the white lines. What am I to do? And someone will be out there and I literally have a like massive sticker on the side of my van that's like, please don't block my ramp. They got little wheelchair characters all over it. And it's pretty obvious that there's something going on in that van. And like I watched this person literally pull up next to my car so that they could run across the street and grab a freaking pizza. And I was like, do I drop my ramp and risk breaking it just to make a point? Just so I can hit their car? Like, so annoying. But yeah, no, it is frustrating because you can't call the Department of Justice and be like, I'm being discriminated against. Like they're using their accessible stall to store their ketchup, which is fucking disgusting if that's a real thing. It shouldn't be a thing. But like, sometimes they'll put furniture in there to make it aesthetically pleasing, or like someone had a vintage hair dryer in their bathroom to like make it look cool. And I was like, damn, because I couldn't get my chair in there. Yeah, so it's been an interesting thing with the ADA and like having the tools, but then you're like sometimes tired. You don't want to like always bust on people. I'm thinking of having cards made and just like passing them out. Be like, by the way, you're breaking the rules. Shame, shame.
Have you I have this one restaurant that I love, and it's accessible, but the bathroom is down a set of stairs.
I have one of those too.
It's like, why? Why? And
Yeah.
I don't know, what the rules are. I don't know if it's like, the size of the restaurant. I don't want to put this little business, I don't want to like get them in trouble. I love
Yeah.
them, but I
Well,
want to eat there. And
Yeah, with the reasonable accommodation thing, like how many steps?
like a full flight, it's like in the basement. The
Okay,
bathroom's like,
there's
in the basement.
no.
It's a very weird setup. It's one of these old row homes
Yeah,
that they like gutted and turned into a
Yeah.
restaurant. So the first floor has like some little ramps,
yeah.
but
Let me see.
then the bathrooms are all downstairs, and it's like,
Yeah, it's like yes and no, depending on the reasonable accommodation, I guess they have for that. And like they should be able to provide like something on the outside, not on the outside, like you go outside and like use the bathroom. But I'll try to
I
look,
think, I mean, right now their accommodation is like, well, you can go down the street to the gas station. It's like,
right?
well,
No, and I love when people are like, you can get a portable potty or like wear a diaper. And I was like, do you wanna wear that?
right, seriously.
Yeah. That's something, yeah, that's a hard one because I also have like it's an amazing restaurant. It's so good. Like it's one of the best restaurants in town, but they do literally have like a flight of stairs down to the bathroom. And the ramp that they would have to build would have to be like 17 feet if we're talking a
Right.
full, which I mean, why not?
Well, I know. I mean, I'm
I know,
thinking,
like how much would that cost? Because I mean, to get that's the thing about ramps. If a restaurant puts a ramp in, it doesn't comply with like the ADA measurements, they're not going to get in trouble if you hurt yourself. Like basically in the court of law, I'm pretty sure they were like, this is as reasonable of an accommodation that we could have done. It's not our fault that she didn't have like a manual wheelchair that weighs 400 pounds less than this person's power chair. Like I have gone on some shady ass ramps, like
yeah,
just the thinnest plywood, and I'm like, this is 500 pounds
right,
without me in it, like,
right, right.
and I'm just you hear it creaking. There are some places I won't go anymore because their elevators fucking terrify me. Like they have like the closed thing and it like shakes when you and people start getting in with me and I'll freak out. I'm like, there's a weight limit. Like we stop, please, because
Yeah.
that's the last way I want to die.
All those funky old buildings have,
Yeah, it's like so cool and like so aesthetically pleasing, like the
right,
front
but
of
then,
hotels and old cities. Like, yeah, it can be super frustrating, but I guess you have to like pick and choose your battles, I guess. Like, don't drink as much water when you go to the restaurant and enjoy that, and then haul ass home so you can go pee. Or yeah, so it just like depends on how much, because you don't want to lose that, and you don't want,
right,
yeah. So,
right.
but I'm gonna look at. There has to be something. I'll write that down.
And from what you said earlier, it sounds like it's pretty easy to file a complaint if you desire to do so. And you said it's
Yeah.
free after
Yeah.
that, like after that, up to a 3 month period, is it pretty much just up to the local like regulation people able to
There's
enforce it?
actually like a mediation thing. So say you like send your complaint in, you can do it by mail or fax or email. And you go to the ADA Gov and it's just literally like file a complaint. And it's like public, whatever you choose, which one is it? Local, government, whatever, and then you can choose different things, like if it's related to COVID, if it's related to education, blah blah blah. And then let me click on that. And then I think you have a choice to like go through mediation before like usually, I mean, I've messaged them and they're like, this isn't something that we do, but here is like, if you want to talk to someone more, contact this person. But like, I think any complaint that I've sent out, I think I've only done 3 or 4, they didn't accept it as something that they were gonna follow through, but it is something that they bookmark for later on and like bring to their attention to maybe deal with later, or maybe like addressed later. And then
Just a quick question on that. Do you think that's often because they're waiting to see if they get additional complaints, so that way they might
yeah,
think,
maybe they're like have a file, and that could be it. I would think that could definitely be something. Because yeah, that's a really good thought. And then what is it? I just lost my train of thought. But after you file it, you could do this mediation thing where, like, I sent a letter to the building that I work in, being like, you have 3 stalls, one could be made accessible. And I was like, I didn't mention like my disability. I didn't like mention, I was like, one of these stalls should be like handicap accessible. And I think within like a month or something, they like pulled out the middle stall, like got rid of the wall and just like extended it, and they added like a grab bar, but the toilet is still really low. So like that's, so yes and no, and that's something I have to like figure out whether or not like I want to pursue. So like yes, they did what they considered a reasonable accommodation, and I didn't have to wait like 3 or 6 or 160 days or whatever the heck it is for it to go through like all the systems or whatever. So a lot of the time, just sending a letter to like the building owner, and again, you have to look up who owns the building, or if it's rented, or if it's, X, Y, and Z. So, which is a lot on the person. Yeah.
Has anyone ever like retaliated against you or been upset with you when you've put in a complaint?
No, not like in the professional manner. Like I definitely have seen people get really uncomfortable, like in restaurants when I'm like, hi, can you move all of your storage stuff out of this hallway so I can go like use the bathroom? And they'll get like really embarrassed or something like that. Or you call and you're like, hey, and check all this stuff, and it turns out they literally have one step. Like I went to a baby shower, they checked everything, everyone was setting up for the baby shower, and I was like, y'all didn't notice that you were going up one step every time you went in and out of the door? Like they had a ramp though, which was just like so confusing, because I went up the ramp and then I was like, wait a minute, yeah. I sat outside. It was luckily it was a beautiful day. I just sat outside and they would bring me food. I felt good. Yeah. It was a bridal shower, and I don't care. But yeah, but there are sometimes like, what if it was Mother's Day or my mom's birthday, and like that just f's everything up? Like, I just don't get it. When you call somewhere, you check and double check, and then there's like a flight of stairs to the bathroom, and they're like, oh my God.
Right,
Yeah.
like it's not even a thought. Like there's a place near my house that it has like a little farm
Yeah.
where little kids can go and like pet farm animals and stuff.
Okay.
We took my niece there, she's 3, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need a bathroom. And they were like, I think they're accessible. They were porta potties in a field.
Oh.
And I was like, girl, what do you imagine me getting? But like, she just didn't think, even though I'm, in a scooter, she just didn't
Yeah.
at all about how you would get a scooter into the porta potty. It just like
Have
didn't
accessible porta potties, but again, like rare and few between. It's like a large festival that I was at, and I was just like, holy hell, like I can turn in this in my wheelchair. Not that I wanted to do like wheelies in the porta potty or anything, but like I was impressed. It's still just, but honestly, in those situations, like I know it's not like the most fun, but they do sell portable johns, and it turns like your pee into a gel, and then you just like zip it up. That's what I use when I go out, and like if I go somewhere and I know it's not going to be accessible, I'll like mention it as I'm leaving, being like, hey, if you could like, I can see you have the X amount of stalls. If one of those stalls could be an accessible one, I'd love to come back. Also, I peed all over your floor, but no, I didn't say that. But like, about it. But yeah, no, like carrying certain devices with me and stuff like that, like, sometimes you have to, and keep bringing it up. Like, I'll leave a thing on their Instagram being like, love to come here if it was accessible. hey, I see you're building a new cargo district. Like for some reason, Wilmington is taking shipping containers and charging people $3,000 to freaking rent out a shipping container so they could have a little store in there. I was like, don't they bring like drugs and people in these? Like, is this legal? But yeah, no. So now it's like a whole shipping container district. And I'm like, will you guys have ramps? Is there going to be a bathroom? Like, how wide are these shipping containers? Are you going to follow like the 32, 38-inch rule for people to go through your weird shipping container? I don't know what the hell is going on. Yeah, what are the rules on shipping containers? Yeah, so there's that. Anyone else have any interesting things?
No, another situation, but another question. You mentioned how your employers made some accommodations for you if somebody's trying to get a job and that just, I'm looking at thinking
Yeah.
employers not wanting to have to do that.
Yeah. Luckily the comedy club that I worked with was being like, it was a old building, but they were gutting it out. So I got to go in there before I started working there and like check the bathrooms out, check out like the comedy room, check out the garden bar. And then for the store that I work at downtown, is called Modern Legend. And basically since it's a small business, something about having 15 people, or let me see the small business one. Yeah, a few organizations are not obligated to comply, such as small businesses with less than 15 employees, which may be exempt from specific law provisions. However, they still need to provide reasonable accommodations to customers with disabilities and some religious organizations, private clubs, and historic buildings. Sometimes state and local laws have more provision and benefits for people with disabilities than the ADA, so it's better to follow those laws. So like, I think I cannot remember the acronyms, but there's like a couple like lettered acronyms that protect, that are better for small businesses and disability people than the ADA. That's kind of what we were talking about, state and local versus like the federal law. So like a small business, if it's smaller than 15, like I can't remember what it was like the employers and something, whatever plan is better to follow as a disabled person working in a small business than the ADA or whatever. But so for Modern Legend, I have a grabber there. I asked her to switch all of her lights to button lights. So when I come in, I don't have to flip switches. I don't have to go like mess with whatever those light switch thingies are. She, instead of doing a lighter thing, she got an electric lighter for me, like just little things that she can also write off for taxes. Like, I think a lot of these people think it's going to cost them so much money, but if you collect your receipts, you send it back, they will provide you with like tax reimbursement or something like that. So it is beneficial if you can convince them or show them that it's beneficial for them to make it accessible. And like, there's this group of people that want to spend their money in your store or your restaurant or whatever. But yeah, and whenever she rearranges the floor in the store, the records or whatever, she'll always like text me like pictures, like, is this wide enough? And I'll be like, you need to put tape on the carpet so that my wheels don't get caught in it, or like a stroller's wheels, or a crutches or something like that. So honestly, it's just being able to talk to those people. And like, I try not to like bombard her with all this stuff, because again, being a small business owner is absolutely horrifying from what I've seen. I've worked there for like 4 or 5 years, and I've like seen such sadness, and I'm like, God, I'm so glad I only work on Sundays. Like, but yeah, there's some interesting stuff that I'll add again to the document that I have about like small businesses, and I'll find the links to those design standards and stuff.
That was helpful. Anybody else have any questions?
Gotta hydrate everyone. I don't see any y'all drinking water.
There we go.
There we go. That's it. Hydration break. But yeah, there is so much information with this ADA stuff. Y'all, like, it's wild. Down to like light switches and the inches of doors and the spaces and parking lots and how many accessible spaces you need for the amount of like just van versus like regular disabled parking. Let's see what else. It's just like a bunch, there's like education, the labor section of it, the medical section of it, there's like a miscellaneous section. But yeah, it is interesting if you could like they have free courses on like their ADA, like the Rocky Mount ADA has like free online courses where they have like police and the ADA or online websites and accessibility. Some of them, I think the most expensive one is like $5 if you want to get like a certificate in it. Not sure about Canada, but again, Allie, I'm curious. I'm gonna look up just like Accessibility Canada. I'm sure y'all got something good.
Mhm.
And if
Yeah,
not,
I'm sure it's very similar. I just have never
mhm.
looked into it.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a question because I've, from time to time, people have asked me for help to find an accessible place to live, an apartment, condo, something. It's really hard. And it's astounding to me
Yeah.
how few, residences are accessible. And is there, are they like exempt from ADA because, or which types of residences are required,
No. Well, as you know, they're gonna try to fit as many people that they can in there. A lot of these new like residencies or houses, apartments, whatnot, are required to have accessible rooms on like each floor or whatever. I'm always shocked when I see new condos going up and it's stairs. Like there are the 2010 ADA standards for accessible design, like new buildings, like you have to have accessibility, and it's like elevators have to be one of those things. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. So I don't know if they think that they're gonna like skimp around it, or if once they build it, they're like, oops, like, oh, that's not reasonable for us to whatever, but we can add first floor and put a ramp in, but then you're not guaranteed as a disabled person to get that that thing, so, or that room. So it's like, my suggestion is like to go down the list of like resources almost. Your local disability resource center, and then like I'll start going like out further, or like on Facebook, like type in accessible rooms, and then a word of mouth is also a good thing. But as for like guaranteeing that you get an accessible like housing thing, I think it would have to definitely be like a specific organization. Like the NBA used to do some stuff like that. Like they used to have like a section of their thing, but now it's like, I don't even think we have one here in North Carolina anymore. But I definitely go to the Disability Resource Center. And then it depends on like if you're on Medicare or Medicaid, or like if you're gonna be with a roommate, like et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, it's so annoying that you have to educate yourself. And I mean, I can't imagine having, not that I wouldn't come to you, June, for my apartment needs, but not the first person I would go to, honestly.
I will say, because I
I
could
mean,
chime
shoot
in
your
for a second.
shot, but
Because I could chime in for a second, because accessible housing was something that I really struggled with, like in the last 2 years, like trying to find accessible apartments, like actually accessible apartments in the Seattle area and affordable. for that matter too. So hard. I ended up having to move in with my parents, and we built my own accessible
Yeah.
space, my room, my bathroom.
Yeah.
And one thing that I was looking for when I thought that living in an accessible apartment was still an option was the centers for independent living.
Yeah.
Most states have them. Unfortunately, they're extremely understaffed, and those states don't have like the housing to begin with to offer it as a resource for those people.
Yeah.
Um,
It is like I did the same thing you did. My parents were building a house. They put on a mother-in-law suite. The doors are so wide. It's just like, yeah, lucky enough to be able to do that, but it's also so much less stress. Like trying, God, I just like you want to rip your hair out. I would almost want to rather
And
just
all these baby boomers are getting old. They
Yeah.
are not going to be able to walk up and down their stairs
Can't
in the
do it right
car
now.
either.
that's actually something
I'm
that
just,
It's actually something that my dad and I are talking about starting a consulting business in
a great
the
idea.
Seattle area to help, because like all these like like you said, baby boomers are getting older and
Yeah.
they want to stay in their homes for longer. And like how can we help them
And there
convert
just
their
aren't
homes
enough
to make
houses on the
people-
market for people that are like,
They
you
need to-
cannot find
Yeah.
a one floor house in my area.
Yeah.
Like they are gone as
Yeah,
soon as they're listed, they're gone.
yeah.
There's
Seattle is so hilly, and like almost every single house has stairs.
yeah. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
Danielle, do you say that you could do consulting? Was that part of this? Like, can you,
The
when you
ADA.
get this certificate, like, can you consult with businesses and stuff to
Yes,
help them?
definitely. Yeah, I mean, after all the medical, I would love to do like medical offices as well. Because
Yeah.
like it's just so surprising to me. I'm like, you're a medical facility. Like one time I got out of my wheelchair to get an x-ray and she's like, oh, you could stand. And I was like, get the hell out of here. Of course, I mean, yes, as an ambulance or a wheelchair user, you are a medical professional. I'm not like, yeah, but I mean, there's not enough trainings. That's the thing. That's like, it's not a required training until it's brought to their attention, like how to
There's
properly
so
pick
many.
someone up, yeah, and put them on the table. They're out there, but it's like you said, Z, understaffed, even in there, like people trying to do the jobs of 5 people already. Yeah, if I think about it too much, I'll just turn off the lights and go to my special place. It is a lot. So, but I mean, I would love to just be like cities, medical,
Or
schools.
like architects,
Yeah.
like, city planner. Yeah, like I
Stuff.
feel like that would be so helpful.
Mhm. Cobblestone streets.
Ugh,
No, we do
just
not ride
get out of
horses.
here, Sal's Point with your
Pop, pop,
terrible.
pop, pop, pop. Hate it. Ugh, but yeah, no. I mean, I fell out of my wheelchair and had to have a whole thing for like 6 months with the cities because there was a massive crack in the thing, and I just like flew out of that. And yeah, my wheelchair, my arm thing broke, my joystick, like yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah,
So
some of these curbs, especially on the East Coast, these old cities are just
yeah, and then they're allowing
Baltimore is
people to like drink
horrendous.
alcohol and walk around. So you got all these drunk people that you gotta dodge. It's like Frogger. I just run them over sometimes. I was like, oh my God. I'm a menace. But I have the information. Like the thing is like be terrible, be a terror, but like know what you're talking about. Like, and then like try to help them fix it. Like I mean, I've gotten like at least 5 or 6 businesses to finally like fix their as much as I could with their issues, like in their bathrooms, their entrances, like yeah. So it just takes time. And I'm worried I'm gonna be like 98 and like have barely made a dent anywhere. But
No, this is inspiring. You're inspiring.
Yeah, I
like,
feel like we could all be like an ADA team, like the A team.
Mhm.
yeah.
We need uniforms.
No,
ADA
they'll know who we are.
superheroes.
They'll see us coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
They'll see
kidding,
us
they'll
coming.
already see us coming.
But yeah, does anyone have any other questions? Because I feel like I need to like do this now, but I also want to like lay in bed and watch TV.
It
So
sounded
you'll
like that
send
there'd
out,
be an article coming for those interested in learning more. Is that expected to be published pretty soon?
The thing, my little, yeah, I will have that. I'm gonna send that, June. Should I send that to you? That file? Like, can I do?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Send it to me.
Wednesday.
No huge rush. Well, I'm tied up all week. I have in-staff meeting them traveling. Be back Sunday. So yeah, beginning of next week, if you get it to me, we'll post it. But I'm actually, I was
Zach, I can
thinking it'd be
also
cool.
email it to you as well
Yeah,
if you want to look it over
yeah.
too.
I mean, my gears are turning in my head about like if there's all this training material like virtual stuff online.
Mhm.
And I thought it might be really interesting to have like I'm calling them the ADA superheroes or something, but a group of people, getting the training and then solving, dealing with
We
issues and
all get
then
on a
meeting together
drone.
so you can like share, compare notes and tactics and
Like
knowledge.
take pictures. Like I've been trying to take pictures of curb cuts like we've talked about.
Yeah.
And then I made an Instagram and it's called Inclusive Wilmington. And I posted on there and then I tagged the city and I get all my friends to share it and annoy the shit out of the city. Yeah, I've fixed so many holes by just putting like, honestly, if I get some of my hot friends to stand on them, like it works a lot faster too. Like she's got like 16,000 followers. Like she's a bartender. Like these people have like insane amount of followers on Instagram, like 36,000. Like, and they're just bartenders. They just got famous for being bartenders, which is absolutely mind blowing to me. But hey, if I could get them to stand in a pothole and then fix it,
Yes.
yeah.
I feel like you should reach out to Cardin because as I recall, she like way back when
He's
she
awesome.
got the University of Georgia or something to like put a ramp in for the arch.
Mhm.
So like she probably has lots of resources and things to share.
He needs to be on our team.
Yeah, totally.
We're bringing it to Canada, Allie.
Yeah.
Get the moose. That's what y'all got up there, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
what you got up
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Mooses.
Moose teeth.
Well, I mean, we're starting something here. I kind of like this
Yeah.
idea. All right.
We're all getting matching tattoos.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, this was awesome. I'm gonna get on looking this stuff up, but again, I got some. Yeah, now my gears are grinding, June.
Okay, good.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Danielle.
That was awesome. Thanks, Zach, for also getting this stuff together.
Thanks for taking the
Thanks,
time.
everybody.
Yeah.
All right.
Have a wonderful evening.
Next
everyone.
time. Okay. Bye-bye.
A for ADA.
All right.